Apologies, please, Christine. Thank you.
Thanks, Provost, and good morning, members. So we have Provost Todd.
Here.
Councillor Canning.
Present, thanks.
Councillor Friel.
I'm here, thanks, Christy.
Councillor McFadden.
Here.
Councillor McGee.
Yep.
Councillor Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Mackay.
Present.
Councillor Richardson.
Present.
Councillor Adams. Councillor Jones.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Linton.
Here.
Councillor Reid.
Here.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Boyd.
Yeah, thanks, Christine.
Councillor Douglas.
Here, Christine.
Councillor Ingram.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Petermaben.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Maitland.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Here.
Councillor Cogley.
Here.
Councillor McGregor.
Here, thanks.
Councillor Linda Maben.
Here, thank you.
Deputy Provost Claire Leach.
Here, cheers, Christine.
Councillor Lennox.
Morning, here.
I have an apology from Councillor Simmons. Councillor Crawford.
Here.
Councillor Kyle.
Present.
Councillor McMahon.
Yeah, Christine, thanks.
Councillor Watts.
Present.
Councillor Filson.
Yeah.
Councillor Hogg.
Here, thanks.
And Councillor Stewart.
Here, thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Provost.
Thanks very much, Christine. Folks, we'll go through. There's a lot of announcements, but a lot of them are really important. 17th of May, the Employee Awards at the Dean Castle. It was a beautiful afternoon, and it was great to see the winners for all their hard work that they've achieved in their roles, and it was a wonderful afternoon. I'm sure you will agree. Absolutely brilliant day on 18th of May up at Edinburgh for the ordination of the new moderator of the Church of Scotland. Full of tradition and absolutely wonderful. You're made very welcome up there. And it's great when all of the ex-moderators and ministers from around East Ayrshire always come up and say hello to you. So a lovely day there. Player of the Year, dinner at Mighty Killie. It was great to go along and really poignant. And I had a tear in my eye when Tommy Burns was inducted into the Kilmarnock Football Club Hall of Fame, and his wife Rosemary was there to accept the honour, and she said that Tommy loved his time at Kilmarnock, and he was. She said the family's always made welcome there, so that was good. East Ayrshire Schools Athletics Championships, Wednesday the 22nd of May. Went along, and we even had guests from Arran because due to weather problems they couldn't get to their sports day, so we invited them along, and they had a great time. So it was great to see all of those young folk enjoying themselves doing sport. Now, a football one, Junior Cup final again for 6 years running. An East Ayrshire team, the mighty Darvel, won the Scottish Junior Cup on the 2nd of June. It surely shows that East Ayrshire is the home of junior football in the whole of Scotland, and all of the committee from all over Scotland acknowledged that. So well done to them. Commiserations to the Kilmarnock women's football team, who had a brilliant season and they narrowly just missed out on promotion. So please go along and support them as much as you can, because they're doing great. Well done to East Ayrshire primary schools, who won the inter-district tournament against other primary schools in Ayrshire. Always a strong team. They also won the inter-district cup and also the national sevens. It's the 40th anniversary of Volunteers Week, Monday the 3rd of June. And it was great to present the volunteers with a gift as a small token of appreciation for them that got the appreciation, who have been dedicating over 40 years of their lives to volunteering. So with the help and dedication from these volunteers, a lot of people have benefited from their advice and their support. Again this year, the 80th anniversary, a lot of anniversaries this year, anniversary of D-Day landings. And we went along to the Cenotaph on the 6th of June. And it was great to present a wreath at our beautiful Cenotaph. Parade Commander Stuart Finlay gave a really thought-provoking speech on the sacrifice of all those that had served. And it was lovely to see members of the public there as well. Gillian McClelland, who's a teacher primary 5 at Onthank Primary School, achieved Probationer of the Year. So well done to Gillian. That must have been a really good a competition from all over Scotland to get that one. So well done to her. We went along to the Learning Disability Showcase in Sturton, where we had the wheel tappers, the foot tappers, and Eddie and Jim here. So well done to John Wilson and Maureen. Put on a brilliant event. I had a tear in my eye when I dance. If anybody gets a chance, please go and see I dance. Absolutely brilliant. Again with football, the Shankly football tournament at the Barony. And on the 8th of June, it was a beautiful day, but it was absolutely freezing. There was 4 teams from Liverpool playing against 4 teams from East Ayrshire. The event was really busy, and it was great to meet Barbara Alexander, who is Bill Shankly's niece. Karen Gill and Emma Parry come up from Liverpool, who are his granddaughters. But congratulations to Bonnet and Thistle, who beat Stuart Nannick 3-0, then went on to beat the Talbot 1-0 in the final. Great day for football, and the Liverpool guys were all saying they'd love East Ayrshire to go down there next year. So hopefully we can arrange that. Round the Toon, the annual run, absolutely incredible. I met a guy who came from London just to compete in Round the Toon in Kilmarnock, because he said that all of the folk on their social media say the Kilmarnock 10K is the best in the UK. So there you go. That's only one person saying that, but that's great. It was great to see, and everybody I spoke to that weren't from East Ayrshire said all of the residents and all the churches around the town all came out, gave them a lot of support. So good for them. We gave civic recognition to Amy Sharp, Charlie Boakes, the 21st of June. Amy was the winning vocalist for the Scottish Young Musician of the Year at the Royal Conservatoire after her win at the East Ayrshire finals. And Charlie won the UK Rotary Young Musician of the Year award for the 2nd year in a row, and has won every single Scottish event since starting Grange Academy at 12 years old. So wish the girls all the best. Sorry, Charlie was, it was the French horn that she played. Absolutely amazing. New Kilmarnock Primary School flies a flag for East Ayrshire in the Primary School's National Burns competition. So well done. And this is on top of the Scots Language Awards coming to Kilmarnock in September. Folks, that's finished with the remarks, and we're going to go into business proper, item 1, your agenda, and I'm going to hand over to Eddie.
Thanks, Provost. Morning, members. Members, can I seek the nominations for Provost of East Ayrshire leader?
Can I move Jim Todd?
Second that, Eddie.
Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much. Could I move Councillor Billy Crawford, please?
Councillor McFadden.
Can I move Councillor James Adams, please?
Seconded by Councillor Watts. Thanks. Christine, can you make arrangements?
Yep, thanks, Eddie. And as all members are in chambers this morning, we're going to go old school and do the vote by a show of hands, if that's okay. So we'll take the second amendment first, which is for James Adams as Provost. Can I have a show of hands, please? 3. And for the second amendment, which is for Billy Crawford as Provost, can I have a show of hands, please? 9, 9, 3, 7, 8, 9, 9.
9.
Thanks, David. And can I have a show of hands, please, for Jim Todd as Provost? 18, 16.
We are out of practice. I get 50. That's the
I
difference.
get
It's just like, I think we can't actually see. Sorry.
16, 16, 18,
17.
or
It's just-
16. Oh!
Sorry, members. Sorry.
Not always. So I can just confirm that Jim Todd has been appointed as Provost. Thanks.
No, thanks very much, Christine. Thanks, folks. We'll carry on. We're going to go to item 1.2 on your agenda, and that's election of Deputy Provost. Leader.
Can I move Claire Leach?
Second that, Provost.
Councillor Mackay.
Very much. I would move Councillor June Kyle.
Thank you. Yep, yep. Councillor McFadden.
I move Councillor Alison Simmons, please.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, yep, thank you.
Try and be better this time, Provost. So, second amendment is for Alison Simmons as Deputy Provost. Can I have a show of hands, please? 3. And the first amendment is for June Kyle as Deputy Provost. A show of hands, please.
10.
10. And a show of hands for Claire Leach as Deputy Provost, please. 17. Thanks very much, Provost. I can confirm that Claire Leach has been appointed as Deputy Provost.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Thank you. Thanks, folks. We're going to go over item 2, which is the declarations of interest. We've all been here before. Are we okay? Oh, thanks. 3, which is the previous minutes.
Provost. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep, that's okay. It's previous minutes from council, pages 46 and pages 7 to 13.
This time?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Any matters arising, folks? Any questions? We're okay. Thank you. Item 4 is the Cabinet Committee minutes, and this is approval for the correct records.
Can the move as a correct record, Provost?
Thank you very much.
Second that.
Second, great. Folks, any questions? Any? Councillor McGee.
On the Cabinet Committee, the 15th of May, Provost. I can ask a question regarding that. It's just regarding the review of Rugby Park catchment area parking restrictions. Again, there was a good debate during that Cabinet. But I was just wondering, having a fairly successful Kilmarnock football team isn't a bad thing for the town. And it seems to me, Ken, that folk that are trying to attend Rugby Park are started to getting treated like pariahs that were no wanted there. And it's very, very difficult to park near the ground. I was just wondering, during this review, what are we doing to work in partnership with the club? And are we going to consult with the fans as to what could maybe help them no park our folks' driveways and that? I mean, I could go through lots of streets where there are double yellow lines. You're parking there on a Wednesday night. You're never near Omdi's runway. You're not at a corner, but you're parking in double yellow lines. Folk are feared to park them sometimes, even at that time of night. And also the safety of fans when they leave the ground. If 8,000 folk are coming out of gates, they can't fit on the pavement. And yet, when you're walking up the road, the traffic is allowed to drive up the road along with you as pedestrians. But you go to any other ground in Scotland, Dunfermline, Raith Rovers, Celtic, Rangers, that doesn't happen. So I'm wondering, what can we do to make football fans safe? And what are we doing, working in partnership with the club, to make sure that folk can get to the football? Because I think folk coming into the town obviously bring some income into the town, and I think we need to be wanting to make sure that people are able to get to the football, because not everybody can just walk miles to get, because they're no that kind of a certain age. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for that. Maybe bring in Jane. Okay.
Thanks, Councillor McGee. So we do work with Kilmarnock Football Club. We have been working with them to identify areas where they can provide parking, off-street parking for the supporters and the away support in particular. So they have identified an area, and we will continue to work with them. We have put in temporary traffic regulation orders, which we'll monitor at the start of the next season to see how that works. We've obviously got to strike a balance with the needs of residents and the needs of the fans that are travelling to the club to support the club, and we will continue to do that. And as part of the review, we will work with Kilmarnock Football Club to take on their opinions as to how the new restrictions have worked for them, as well as taking on the views of the residents before we come to any decision as to whether to extend those restrictions into other areas or not. There are areas where fans can park safely. With regards to the sort of pedestrian traffic, if you like, coming out of the grounds, I think we will also have to work with the club to identify sort of active travel routes, safe active travel routes to and from the game, sustainable transport links, etc.
I think, and I totally appreciate residents parking staying near a football ground, but surely when you've bought a house and that ground's been there for over 100 years, there is a certain amount of inconvenience that happens maybe 20 times in a season. So you're asked for a wee bit of inconvenience 40 hours a year. But the safety of the fans leaving the ground, surely it's just a question asking the police to stop the traffic moving while pedestrians are moving along the road. It happens at every other ground in Scotland except Kilmarnock Football Club, and I find that strange that the supporters within East Ayrshire are treated less well than supporters throughout the whole of Scotland. So I'm hoping that we can work on that urgently. It's not the first time I've brought this issue to the attention, East Ayrshire Council. I ken David Dorns had talks with them before. I think it's a serious issue. Yeah.
Thanks for that. We're okay. That'll be interesting because absolutely fair comments. Interesting to see what comes out of the discussions. Could you come back, Jane, with maybe give us a report? Yeah, that's right. That's great. Leader.
Thanks. No, I mean, John's absolutely, Councillor McGee's absolutely right to raise this. There is a balance there to looking after the safety of the residents and the football supporters alike. There was incidents where some of the parking, illegal parking was just getting ridiculous. It was just restricted emergency vehicles, so something had to be done. But it's a fair point. It's a thriving business for the town, and it's something that a number of people. The ground's been there for over 110 years now. So it's something we've got to look after as well. So trying to get a balance. But can I just maybe make a point? I know that there's been discussions with the football club about looking at Home Quarry Road, particularly for away supporters, which was historically which was used. And just in terms of that, I know with the perennial problem with the floodgates that sometimes shut. If there's anything at all we can do to make that more accessible, particularly through the winter periods, that would certainly help, because I know it's folk, when that's shut, folk don't like, adds a wee bit distance and kind of deters folk from parking down there going to matches. So if we could have that kind of open, particularly in the winter months when it tends to rain more, if we could have a look at that, I'd really appreciate it.
Thanks. Councillor Richardson.
The leader's just made a good point about Home Quarry Road. I was, as you know, I'm a Kilmarnock supporter as well. I was going to bring that up because traditionally, Dougie's absolutely right. Traditionally, that's where the away buses and the away traffic was all directed. It was directed into the old Safeway car park in Home Quarry Road. But there isn't. My point was going to be, and it's maybe something that would have to be discussed with Kilmarnock Football Club. Again, it's quite bad that we have to think about segregation at football games. But when you think about the layout of the ground, the family stand is the stand that's closest to Home Quarry Road. The away stand is the furthest stand away from Home Quarry Road. So if you take all the away fans down to Home Quarry Road, especially in the days when the Old Firm come to town, you've basically got the situation where the Old Firm support, either Rangers or Celtic, have to pass through the Kilmarnock support to get to the stand that they're going to, which isn't ideal. So away parking, if Kilmarnock want to configure the ground the way it's configured and keep the family stand where that's away stand where it is, ideally, and I know it's difficult because I'm racking my brains and I'm not coming up with a site for this, but the away parking should really be the other end of the ground. So that was just a point I was going to make.
Yep. Yep. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Provost. Yes, Councillor McGee does raise a really good point about fan safety and walking away from the grounds. That was a really good point. And the point that the police don't actually assist in that is a concerning one, and it was a good point that John McGee raised. But I would just like to ask Jane, when is the consultation going to happen with all stakeholders regarding the parking management in and around Rugby Park?
Thanks, Councillor Jones. So I think it was agreed at the meeting that it would be a 12-month period, so we would wait until we saw the effect of the existing temporary orders that were in through the next football season before we would do the actual formal consultation regarding any further measures. I'd also like to just, the point about the police, we can certainly speak to the police. My understanding is that at other football grounds, the football clubs pay for the police presence at the grounds, so that's something that possibly, Kilmarnock Football Club would need to get involved with in an arrangement with the police regarding policing of the event.
That's great, thanks for that. Councillor McGee, yep.
Right, my understanding is Kilmarnock pay for the policing at the event as well. But if you go to East End Park or Kirkcaldy, you get a big policeman comes up in a van and drives across the road, and the cars don't get by. There's no a road traffic management certificate or anything. The police just do it, and they wait 10 minutes and then they drive away, and the traffic goes on and the folk are all dispersed. It happens at East End Park as well, and I could go through other grounds where I've seen it happening, and yet no at Rugby Park. So I think it's just a matter of, we need to say, do the fans have the right to remain safe as they're exiting the ground? I believe they do, and something needs to be done about it. Thank you.
David, yeah.
I don't think anyone's disputing what Councillor McGee's putting forward. I attend certain matches sometimes up in Glasgow, and it's the police, either with motorbikes or vehicles, that will simply stop traffic and then manage traffic, and then occasionally let the traffic go, and then they'll try and run down their fellow supporters in a rush to get home. That is absolutely, and this isn't passing the buck, it's a matter of fact and a matter of law, that the powers to manage the traffic there and then in the day sit with the police. So it is a matter, I think, that needs to be picked up in the review with the police, or even before then. It doesn't need to wait 12 months for the review, but it is a function of the police, and only the police have the power to stop the traffic there and then for the reasons of public safety, as you say. And again, I don't think anyone's disputing that. What we can't do is provide the answer to the question of why doesn't it happen at Rugby Park. I think that question needs to be discussed with the police and perhaps brought back to council sooner. I don't think we need to wait 12 months, because that's something, if there is an issue, as seems to be the case, that through perhaps discussion and resolution. But I think what Jane's alluding to, and I may be wrong, I'm guessing here, is that it's maybe about the level of policing and whether or not there's enough police being paid for, and it does fall to any club to pay for the police. Again, let's not make it about Kilmarnock, but if there's not, I don't know if the issue is the numbers of police to actually manage the traffic safely, we're not sure. But I think what we need to do is deal with the police issue now as a current issue, and I don't think it needs to wait 12 months for the review. And I think along with Jane, we can talk to the police and look at and the club and see what the issues are there. Because if there's a quick fix there, we shouldn't wait 12 months if it can be put in place sooner. But again, I'll finish where I started. It absolutely needs the police to be there in numbers and have the ability to exercise their powers, because only the police can exercise the powers to stop the traffic for safety reasons. So I think Jane will be taking it away for here, and we can have an early discussion with police and maybe bring that back to Councillor Cabinet sooner rather than later, in terms of whether there's a quick fix now. Well, the 12-month period, the settling in period is running, and the full review and all of this, because this is only one element of it, the full review then comes back later. But there's probably no need to wait 12 months to try and get an answer to the question you've raised, which I think the whole chamber accepts as a legitimate question, because what you've identified does happen elsewhere.
And we'll certainly be raising that at the Police, Fire and Rescue Committee as well. Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Provost. Yeah, there's some good points made there. Going to Kelly Games as well. unless it's Rangers or Celtic, you don't see police in the stadium. It's stewarded. But the points coming out, I've seen that for years, all the years going to Rugby Park. So if you take the Kelly support coming out the Dundonald Road end, it'd be quite straightforward. The Councillor McGee's right enough. You can stop the traffic for 10 minutes because I come out there and you've got people mixing with traffic trying to go onto Dundonald Road, etc. And then, you know, the other end, you've got Kelly fans and away fans come out at Rugby Road, getting onto South Hamilton Street. And again, you've got people mixing with traffic. Again, could we maybe just at both the ends, just stop the traffic for 10 minutes. 10 minutes would be enough to get the fans out. I think that would be a reasonable solution for everybody. Thank you.
No, thanks for that. Is there anybody else on this item or anything in the previous minutes? No, we're okay. Thanks for that. On to item 5 now, which is the appointment of leader of the council, deputy leader, cabinet members, chairs and vice chairs. This is pages 68 to 71. Councillor McMahon.
Post Councillor Reid as leader.
Any other? Councillor Watts.
Councillor McFadden.
Any other proposals? We're okay. Thank you. We'll go to the vote. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Provost. Again, we'll take the amendment first, which is for Councillor McFadden as leader. Can I have a show of hands, please? McFadden gets hand up? No. 3. And can I have a show of hands for Douglas Reid as leader, please? Seventeen.
17.
Yep, 17. Thanks very much. And I can confirm that Douglas Reid has been appointed as leader.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask for proposals for deputy leader. Leader.
Can I move Councillor Jim McMahon?
Councillor McFadden.
Councillor Neil Watts.
Thank you. And Councillor Adams. Thank you. Any other proposals for deputy leader? Okay, Christine, thanks.
Thanks, Provost. Again, we'll take the amendment first, and that's for Neil Watts as deputy leader. A show of hands, please. That's 3. And for Councillor Jim McMahon as deputy leader. A show of hands, please.
Sixteen.
16. Thanks very much. I can confirm that Councillor Jim McMahon has been appointed as deputy leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm going to open it out for the cabinet positions and committees. Leader.
Can I move the status quo, Provost?
I'd second that, Provost.
Thank you very much. Are there any other proposals? We're okay. Thank you. I think that's that part. Chairs, vice chairs, what's the status quo? So we're okay. Everything stays in place. Everybody understand that part? I'm not being cheeky. That's great. Thank you very much, folks. I'm going to go over to Joe now. This is the East Ayrshire Council annual accounts, pages 72 to 185. Over to Joe.
Thank you, Provost. Morning, members. The annual accounts are before you today. It's the draft unaudited annual accounts for 2022-23. Grateful to political groups for meeting with colleagues and the team that compiled the accounts and going through the Audit Scotland document, Why the Accounts Matter. A really important document that recognises the complexity of the accounts and gives helpful hints on where to seek scrutiny and challenge, and grateful to both colleagues in the team and also to you members for going through that document. So the regulations that require us to produce accounts are shown at paragraphs 3 and 4. And we then touch on the outturn for the financial year. And this is where we do that change and we move the management reporting that you know through East Ayrshire Forms, and we take that to the side and we then apply international financial accounting standards. And in doing so, we then change the figures considerably. And when we add in those elements that essentially turn our annual accounts into private sector annual accounts, we can see that the gross cost of delivering services last year was around £665 million. The general fund uncommitted balance is shown in the statement called the movement in reserves, the MIR. It's on page 39, and it shows that as a council we have a general fund balance of around £63 million. 32 or £33 million of that is earmarked. Another part of that, members, as you're aware, is in February you agreed to service concessions, that 19 million pounds that's sitting as part of that 10-year fund is in there too. And then it brings us back to the end of year East Ayrshire performance figure and the annual accounts figure around the uncommitted balance, around £12 million or 3.03% of our net revenue expenditure. We also note that in terms of the housing revenue account, which has its own set of statements in the accounts, has a balance of £23 million. And you know, as part of the Strategic Housing Investment Programme, that balance will be used in coming years to bolster and to augment that programme. As we produce the accounts, the date of 31st of March becomes a really important date for us, in that it's a date when, in order to produce the balance sheet, we have to capture all assets and liabilities that are on the council at that date. It's also a time when we look at the provisions that we set aside in previous years and whether or not those provisions should apply in the year in question. We've looked at a number of our provisions. We had one for Burns Mall in advance of New River Retail. That is now being extinguished as a provision, but it's been held as an earmarked balance, so that you as council and cabinet can determine how that should be taken forward with any new owner of the mall. In our East Ayrshire Performs strategic risk register, you know that we've had an entry for probably the last decade, if not more, on equal pay. I'm pleased to say it was trailed as part of the East Ayrshire Performs outturn. That provision, that large sum that we set aside for equal pay, has also been extinguished. We have a handful of payments still to make, and we have a payment to make to HMRC for the tax and national insurance on those payments. So that risk has gone off the register, and that provision that you held for many years has now been extinguished. It meant that we could take £1 million to the uncommitted balance, and it's why you can see that increasing to that £12 million. We also reviewed the liabilities that rest on the council because of predecessor authorities. With a thing called the Strathclyde Regional Council intromissions, where the 12 authorities that make up or made up Strathclyde are still liable for any claims that arise as part of that Strathclyde Regional Council. And so we've reviewed them too. They've changed during the year for two reasons. The first is that we had more details on the claims that have been provided, but moreover and more importantly, the Glasgow City Council has agreed to be the managing authority for claims of historic child abuse that rest with the former 12 Strathclyde authorities. So we have also reviewed that balance too, and we hold a balance for that, and we will take a share of the total Strathclyde liability for historic child abuse based on our council tax band D equivalent figure. So this council will take around 5% of all claims that arise in future. We also are required in the annual accounts to show the remuneration report for senior councillors and for relevant officers, and they are as shown. We then tiptoe into the pensions, which last year was a significant change in that we had a pension asset recorded in our accounts. That was really unusual, and it led to a number of things, including the 2-year reduction in the employer superannuation rate. In this year's annual accounts, there's been some dramatic changes made to the accounting treatment for pensions. We had a pension asset recognised in 2023-24, but the accounting requirements changed, and as a result, we are required to show that as a zero value. And whereas the year before it was shown capped at £23 million, it was shown this year in the accounts before you as a zero balance. And we've also shown a pension liability for the unfunded element of superannuation. What that is essentially is the members of staff who have retired in years gone past, who had an enhancement. then there's been a figure placed on the liability that arises from that too. So that's pensions, and that's quite a significant change from the position last year, but I know that colleagues have taken you through it. We show, as we're obligated to do, the group account and the group entities towards the back end of the accounts. And we also show that for all of the associates that we hold in terms of our group. The public inspection of the annual accounts it starts tomorrow and runs through until the 18th of July, where residents are able to come in and inspect the annual accounts and speak to relevant officers. And so the document before you is a document that takes the management accounts, it then changes it through international financial reporting standards into a much more complex document. We try and get round that by speaking to you and meeting with you individually through the why the accounts matter. But it is a complex document. I'm grateful and want to record my thanks to members for your governance throughout the year, to the staff throughout the council. And this is a team effort. It's maybe located in finance and ICT, but requires assistance from those in governance, people in culture, housing and communities and others across the council to compile the annual accounts. And I'm grateful to them too. This year, members, record my thanks to colleagues in graphics, in particular because we have, through their tremendous efforts, managed to produce a set of accounts which are fully accessible, and they're on the website too. And finally, members and Provost, before I stop, the accounts are complex. I know that some of you want more detail, and that's right, and I welcome that. We've had a specific request for some time for members to go through the annual accounts. I want to extend that to all elected members. If you would like a session to go through the individual entries, the statements and the notes, then I will please get in touch and we can facilitate that. But Provost, I'm happy to stop there and take any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much, Joe. I'm going to ask the leader and then Councillor Richardson. Start just now. And Councillor Linton. Leader.
No, I'd just like to thank the team, join your team for producing such really readable accounts. Get into quite a bit of detail, and you've improved every year. You managed to improve how this is laid out. Can I just say, for some of our public sector partners, if they were just this clear, we might know some of the issues that some of our public sector partners have at the moment. I'll maybe just leave that there.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Provost. Joe, I know you had a really good stab at trying to explain it to members there, but I'm going to return to pensions. You'll be surprised to hear. It's just page 74, point 15. The recognition of the funded pension asset has been applied using appropriate relevant accounting standards and associated professional guidance, although there has been a change in accounting treatment for 2023-24, which will see the value of the funded pension asset capped at a nil value, and with the unfunded element of the pension cost being shown as a liability. Consequently, a pension liability of 39.941 million has been recognised in the balance sheet. I know what you're saying. It's due to a change in accounting standards, etc., accounting treatment. But you know that I go and sit on the Local Government Pension Scheme Advisory Board and the teachers one as well. And I know that the real position is within the Strathclyde Pension Fund. The East Ayrshire element of that fund is obviously, well, it's looking really, really good. It's overfunded. So as a layman, not as an accountant, I'm not an accountant, but as a layman, I've seen information that the way accounting standards are telling East Ayrshire Council we must show the information. As a layman, that doesn't really show the true position. Do you know where I'm coming from in that?
So, through you, Provost. So there's a number of things. Years ago, we had accounting concept, and prudence was a main accounting concept. It was withdrawn because it tended to promote a really negative view and a really cautious view of numbers and the entries that were in the accounts. That was replaced by the requirement to produce accounts that were true and fair and that had faithful representation. and faithful representation is really the cornerstone of the annual accounts. What that means is that when we look at for something like pensions, we have a pension asset. It's several £100 million using the international accounting standards. We are required to cap that because at that point, a different interpretation of an accounting standard comes into play, IFRIC 14. And that means we take it from the £300 million or so, and last year we brought it down to £22 million. Now that we were able to do that because at that time it was really unusual. It caught a lot of people off guard, including the accounting technicians as well. And so that £23 million of a asset that applied in the previous year was based on the fact that the obligation that arises on the pension fund was capped at a running 7-year period. In other words, they looked 7 years hence. During the year, there's been tremendous debate took place. So thankfully, I've not been involved because it's particularly dry, that said that was a wrong interpretation and that when looking at the liabilities in accounts in a pension scheme, you shouldn't use 7 years, you should look at in perpetuity. And as a result, the value must be taken to zero. So you're right, we've got a pension scheme that has 150% financed. We're running that down in Strathclyde because we're taking the employer's rate from 19.3 down to 6.5 for the next 2 years. And so that will then cause that asset to diminish. But in terms of the formal application of accounting standards, which is different from the fund itself, then we need to show what the council, what your 32 obligations are in terms of this council. And that is that you hold an asset at nil value because you've to look to infinity. And at the same time, you have to recognise the liability that arises from the people that were retired in previous years and who have built up a liability. The crudeness of that liability is they are living too long, and that's why the £42 million has materialised as well. And so that is where we are. It's where we try and take the fact of having a pension fund that has too much money in it to the requirements of the accounting and producing that faithful representation that takes that forward. So it's I don't know if that's much of an answer, but that's the obligations, that's the requirement that when we pass these accounts to Audit Scotland on the 1st of July, they will audit on that basis that they will be taken to a nil value, but they recognise that there is an asset in there.
Yeah, thanks for that answer, Joe. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you. Thanks. Councillor Linton.
Thanks, Provost, and just to agree with what Dougie said, I think it's really appropriate that we take this opportunity to thank Joe and his staff for what I think is really good accountancy procedures that take place here in East Ayrshire. By that I mean we receive regular updates. We're kept fully informed as we go through the year. There's no real surprises here. This is an ongoing constantly changing process that Joe and his staff do a really good job of keeping us up to date. And one final point, I'm really pleased to see that the risk register has removed the equal pay. That's been with us for a long, long time. And I remember when it came on the risk register, the prophecies of doom, and it's a tribute to your staff how well that's been handled. We've got through the whole process. We're at the other end of it and it's done. So well done, Joe.
Thank you. Councillor Mackay.
Thanks very much, Provost, and the praise just keeps coming. I never thought that I would say the words that are about to come out my mouth, and that is I actually enjoyed reading these accounts. That's a weird thing for me, but again, I think that's genuinely the highest praise that I can give to Joe and the staff team. And again, I think in answer to Councillor Richardson's question, the grace with which something really complicated is able to be answered, I think is what our experience is of making any contact with the team. And that is the way that we all receive assistance and help with us, irrespective of what level we actually start off in terms of our financial ability to actually interpret accounts. And I do think that, you know, any of the public who come in to see these accounts will actually have a jolly good read. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Councillor McFadden.
Yes, I'd like to join in and thank Joe for, and his team for all the hard work and for the accounts. I couldn't say that I'd actually enjoyed reading them, but I could say I enjoyed being able to read them, which was very important, I think. And yes, I think the public could make sense of these now, with a bit of effort. So thank you for that on behalf of our group. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Folks, if there's no other input, we agree the recommendations. Well done, Joe. Thanks, folks. And now we're going on to the review of the Council's financial regulations and accounting policy. These are the bulletins. So bring in Joe again. Joe.
Do you promise to pass across to Julie, if that's okay?
No problem, Professor. Thank you. This report asks members to approve the financial regulations in Appendix 1, which have been reviewed and updated over the last few weeks. The financial regulations are a key document for the Council, particularly in these challenging financial times and given the current pressures on Council budgets. They set out the framework for maintaining sound financial management across the Council and services, and they apply to all officers and to members. The review has taken the opportunity to update the entire document for changes to structures and responsibilities. The guidance has also been extended to include changes implemented to enhance financial management, such as affordability of the capital programme. The update further strengthens the sections on financial planning and budget management, particularly around the actions to be taken by services and budget holders in the event of overspends and recovery of budgets. As members are aware, given the significant overspends that rolled forward to service budgets on the 1st of April, we are conducting an interim financial report for management, which will in turn lead to the creation of recovery plans for specific services. Therefore, when the next East Ayrshire Performance Report comes before you in September, Cabinet will not only be informed that recovery plans have commenced, but will have detail of the high-level actions that have taken place between now and September to bring the budgets back online. The report also asks members to approve the review schedule in Appendix 2, which sets out the proposals for the accounting policy bulletins which support the financial regulations. There are a number of areas where it's proposed that the existing APB guidance can be deleted as it's covered by other policies and documents. The remaining bulletins will be reviewed within the timescales indicated and, with members' approval today, will be renamed financial policy bulletins. The revised bulletins, where possible, will take a principle-based approach and will further enhance the guidance available to services and to budget holders. Provost, the recommendations are on page 186 of the papers today, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Julie. Folks, going to open it out for any questions, comments. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much. And I think as a follow-on from what we have had here in terms of the annual accounts, I know the detail with which we had in East Ayrshire Performs, and again we were promised within that there would be changes to the guidelines. We have the guidelines in front of us, and I certainly for one am well satisfied that those changes then do give us a stronger footing to go forward. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Folks, we're okay. Recommendations are there, as Julie said. Okay with the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you very much, Julie. And I'm going over to one of the tap dancers for the East Ayrshire Health and Social Care Partnership. This is the strategic plan update, the workforce plan update for property and asset management strategy and communication strategy. So it's over to Jim.
Thank you, Provost, and good morning, members. So the purpose of this report is to present the Integration Joint Board Strategic Plan, Property and Asset Management Strategy and Communication Strategy for the next 3 years for members' endorsement. The recommendations are set out in paragraph 2 here, where members are asked to receive and endorse the strategic plan and the associated plans and strategies. Note that this report and the accompanying papers were approved by the Integration Joint Board yesterday. and will go forward to NHS Ayrshire and Nairn Health Board on the 12th of August, and to implement the direction from the IJB in respect of commissioned services in line with the strategic plan and the approved financial budget for 2024-25. So the background to the report set out here from paragraphs 3 through 7, which confirm the legal requirement for the Integration Joint Board to prepare a strategic plan for the integrated health and social care services under its control, and to review that plan every 3 years. Our current strategic plan has a long-term focus through to 2030. The revised plan presented today covers the next 3-year period through to 2027, when a further review will be required under the legislation. So the strategic plan is the collective framework for the planning, commissioning and delivery of health and social care services that are delegated to the IJB by the Council and Ayrshire and Nairn Health Board. And the plan is structured around 6 high-level strategic priorities: starting well, living well and dying well, people at the heart of all we do, caring for East Ayrshire, caring for our workforce, safe and protected, and digital connections. And these strategic priorities provide the commissioning framework for the IJB with delivery through the Health and Social Care Partnership. The strategic plan is supported by a number of accompanying plans and strategies, including the workforce plan, our property and asset management strategy, and our communication strategy, and updates on these are provided in your papers today. So from paragraph 8, the report considers the requirements of the strategic plan, and the plan must align with the integration principles for health and social care, and also with the national outcomes for health and well-being. And due to the range of services that are delegated to the IJB, the national outcomes for children and justice are also included, and these are set out here at paragraph 10, at the table at paragraph 10. In developing the strategic plan, the process of engagement is also prescribed in the legislation, so that there has been an extensive process of engagement underway to develop the revised plan, and that report is presented at Appendix 2 in your papers. So that process concluded on the 10th of June. We were able to engage with our communities, the people who use our services, with unpaid carers, our workforce, third sector partners and partner organisations, and with all our governance groups. And we were also able to capture the views of children and young people in that process as well, particularly care experienced children and young people, to ensure that their voices are reflected in this plan as well. We had a range of engagement methods, including use of the Council's new Engagement HQ platform. I think we had over 500 visits to these pages, so some really positive engagement on the strategic plan. In terms of the broad feedback, so there's broad support for the strategic plan and for the strategic intentions and priorities. A feeling that framework provides the right direction for health and social care services in East Ayrshire. A view that we needed to focus around dying well also, that needed to be higher up our priorities, given the need to ensure that people get the support that they need at that stage of life. So that you'll see that now being reflected in the strategic priorities. And in terms of the community responses to that plan, broad feedback around the importance of financial stability for people in financial hardship, improved mental health across our communities, fewer people feeling lonely and isolated, and fewer people with drug and alcohol problem use. So these were the 4 kind of key things that come through from our community engagement. And again, these are reflected in the plan. So within the revised plan, the 6 strategic priorities are described in fuller detail, along with our delivery activity and our ambitions for the next 3 years. And these are summarised at the table in paragraph 14 of the report. Importantly, the strategic plan and the financial plan need to align. to provide that assurance that the plan is deliverable, and further detail on the financial framework within the approved budget for the coming financial year is also provided in the report. Along with the arrangements for performance reporting and how we'll be able to demonstrate the impact and the difference we're making for our communities against the full range of local and national indicators. The plan also describes the full range of services and functions that are delegated to the IJB, including our lead partnership arrangements for primary and urgent care across Ayrshire and Arran. So I mentioned that the plan is supported by a number of accompanying plans. Our workforce plan summary here is presented at paragraph 22, and just noting here that the actions are currently in progress to support the health and care workforce. These are closely aligned to our caring for our workforce strategic priority, and are being coordinated and led by the Partnerships Workforce Planning Board with representation from all services. Our property and management strategy has been revised and updated and is appended Appendix 3, a summary here at paragraph 25, just setting out how the property estate that's available to the partnership will be used to deliver the full range of health and social care services. And again, that work is being led and coordinated by our Property and Asset Management Board, which is representation from the Council and NHS Ayrshire and Arran. And finally, our communication strategy for the next 3 years, that's Appendix 4 in your pack. A summary here at paragraph 30. And the strategy, our communication strategy, is just ensuring that the communication needs of the partnership are being progressed, and that we're making use of all our communication channels, including social media, digital platforms, to communicate and engage with our communities. The implications set out paragraph 34 to 44. Just note at paragraph 34 that a full equality impact assessment has been undertaken and published on our website, noting the positive impacts of the plan in terms of our ambitions for improved health and wellbeing with their outcomes. So just in conclusion, Provost, the strategic plan and our associated plans are presented for members' endorsement today, noting that they have been approved by the IJB as the collective framework for our planning and delivery of health and social care services through the partnership. And to note also the engagement process, broad support for the plan with the specific themes and priorities emerging from that, now feeding through into our service improvement plans that will follow on from that work. So recommendations at paragraph 2. Thank you, Provost. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. Certainly entering challenging times. Opening it up now, folks. I'm going to ask Deputy Provost first. Over to Claire.
Thanks. Jim, listen, it's just a quick thank you and to commend you for, I remember it was a few years ago we had a chat about some of these reports coming to council, and now seeing a report like this, I just want to thank you for not only listening to the voices of the young people's cabinet, but also the care experience young people, and to see their voices merged into reports like this. Some of the things I've spoken about at meetings, they've came and told you, to see them now appearing in reports. These are some of your hardest to reach young people and some of the most vulnerable young people that otherwise would never had a chance to have their voice heard, let alone integrated into plans moving forward for the whole of East Ayrshire. This has been well discussed at the previous young people's cabinet and the care experience young people's cabinet, and I just want to say it's absolutely fantastic to see it actually being so apparent now, in our young people actually recognising it for themselves. So thank you for helping us future-proof our council and for listening to young folk and integrating their voice in a way that is really making a difference for them, and they're feeling it now. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Claire. Councillor Maitland.
Thanks very much, Jim. And I know it's just been a few hours since you presented this yesterday, so it's all quite fresh in the mind. I mean, this is our 4th strategic plan, and the covering the next 3 years. And I was delighted to see that you mentioned dying well. It's important that we get that incorporated into the next lot of plans. The national outcomes on page 234 on children wellbeing and justice are extremely important. The 4 appendixes may seem dense, but again, like Joe's, they are exceedingly accessible. I'd like to thank you for that. Another thing you mentioned just briefly at the end there was the financial hardship and the fear of financial hardship. And we know this is real, and there was very good engagement. We talk about how we can't get people to engage. There was very, very good engagement in this. Of course, we've got good results for that as well. So I would just like to thank you and recommend the paper to all. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Councillor Linton.
Thanks, Provost. Can I take you to page 251, Jim, please, and particularly the balance of care? It's an issue I've raised before. Obviously, East Ayrshire's got a major focus on low delayed discharge figures, providing care at the home and in the community, but this comes at quite considerable cost as our ongoing budgetary issues, suggest. But the flip side of that, I guess, is there's a big saving at the acute hospital side of this equation. It's freeing up beds in acute hospitals, a huge cost and a huge saving to Ayrshire and Arn. And I just wonder if there's any update on a transfer of resource coming from that saving to offset the costs that we as a council are having to pick up.
So through you, Provost, thank you, Councillor Linton. So you'll know that there's a review of the integration scheme currently underway. The integration scheme is the framework between the council and the NHS, Ayrshire and Arran, that provides the framework for the integrated services that are delegated through the IGIB and delivered through the Health and Social Care Partnership. So there's focused consideration of that scheme underway at the moment, including the financial arrangements and the risk and reward that sits across the whole health and care system. So that work, I understand, is nearing conclusion, and there will be a report back to members on the outcomes of that report. But I think the issues that you raised there will be considered and will be reported in early course. Thank you.
No, thank you, folks. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much, Jim. And again, thank you, and thank you for the staff team. Considerable body of work here. I would also like, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend yesterday. So I did miss your presentation. That's a regret to me. But I had the opportunity as part of the role of also being in the audit committee, knowing that this was actually coming forward. And I want to thank Councillor Ingram for being so welcoming in terms of the committee when this was actually discussed at his committee, and we actually looked at what the initial reactions to this actually were, and that was great to have the opportunity to actually see that happen live and not just see it in terms of here is what people actually said, having been there and heard what the interaction was and seeing what the responses were to what was being proposed. So again, thank you to Councillor Ingram for that.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Folks, are we accepting the recommendations and noting the report? Can't see anybody else. We okay? Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Jim. Thanks to the team. And the last item today is Ayrshire Roads Alliance Service Plan and the performance report. I will ask Jane to take this one. Jane.
Thank you, Provost. The purpose of this report is to present the Ayrshire Roads Alliance Service Plan for 24-25, which is shown in Appendix 1, and the performance report for 23-24, which is in Appendix 2. As part of the service planning process, it is agreed that the service plan should be approved by the Ayrshire Shared Service Joint Committee prior to submission to both East Ayrshire and South Ayrshire Councils. And at its meeting on the 7th of June, the Shared Service Joint Committee approved the 24-25 service plan, and the service plan was presented to South Ayrshire Cabinet on the 18th of June. The service plan provides detail on the current operating position of the Ayrshire Roads Alliance and sets out the vision, aims and objectives for the 24-25 financial year. The service plan reflects the settled positions in terms of South Ayrshire Council and East Ayrshire Council budgets for 24-25, approved on the 29th of February and the 28th of February respectively, and describes the challenges and targets for the service. The Ayrshire Roads Alliance has been in operation for just over 10 years and has achieved a significant amount in that time. The new integrated operating model provides an excellent platform for service delivery and will continue to facilitate a number of continuous improvement initiatives. Significant challenges lie ahead in terms of maintaining good performance, dealing with financial pressures and their impact on service delivery. A range of performance data is used by the Ayrshire Roads Alliance to measure performance in accordance with statutory requirements to ensure coherent and regular reporting to stakeholders. The Ayrshire Roads Alliance benchmarks its activities with the Association of Public Sector Excellence APSE and the Society of Chief Officers of Transportation in Scotland Scots to identify areas for improvement and cost reductions. In addition to the statutory indicators, the Roads Alliance has a number of other service performance targets, and the performance report for 23-24 is included in Appendix 2. It is recommended that Council notes the Ayrshire Roads Alliance service plan for 24-25, notes that regular progress updates are provided to the Ayrshire Service Joint Committee, and notes the performance scorecard for 23-24. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Jane. Folks, open it up. It's for noting, but we'll open up for questions or any comments. Councillor Richardson.
This was really a paragraph that came out of the recent Governance and Scrutiny Committee meeting, and it was just about the way that Ayrshire Roads Alliance actually, funds its resurfacing works more than the filling of potholes, etc. Because there was a paragraph in there that, and it's all to do with the way money's allocated in annual financial budgets. And members will see this as drivers, basically, and members of the public will come to us and say, how come there doesn't seem to be any work going on the roads? And then all of a sudden, roadworks spring up everywhere. And it's because there was an issue came up in Governance and Scrutiny, and it was all about Ayrshire Roads Alliance having to stop work until the new financial year. And I get it the way that budgets are allocated annually, and if you've used up all the money, you might have to stop resurfacing roads for a couple of months until you get your new budget, probably in the 6th of April, and then you're able to get things going again. But it might be a question to Joe, it might be a question to Jane, but surely there must be a better way of allocating money. Possibly, I don't know, maybe not an annual allocation, maybe looking at allocating funds over a longer period, etc., so that Ayrshire Roads Alliance doesn't have to stop work for a number of months, 2 or 3 months where we can't actually resurface roads. Surely it would be better if there was a way of doing things where we can allocate funds and keep Ayrshire Roads Alliance out there working 12 months of the year. Because we all see it, the public see it. They see the fact that these repairs aren't getting done, and then all of a sudden you can't drive about the town because roadworks are sprung up everywhere. And it's purely down to the fact that the new money's been allocated. So I get that, but there has to be a better way of doing it. So that was just my question or my observation.
So maybe you, Jane, will bring Joe in then yourself if you want. Joe's the fun man.
Thank you, Provost. And so I think and Jane will probably come in this point as well. There's be seasonal aspects to the way work can be done as well. But as a council, I don't really recognise to the extent that's described the ebbing and flowing of cash. You're as a council, you're very committed to this. There's £4 million in the capital programme each year for I don't know how many years in the future for carriage surface wear, and there's another £1.5 million, if memory serves me right, in the same capital programme for bridge and repairs as well. And then there's the revenue allocation that's in the budget, which, so before we actually kick a ball, there's £5.5 million of work to be done each year before the revenue work comes in. So the timing of that will be down to a number of factors. And I know that in the past there were issues around the recruitment of staff. But there's also seasonal aspects to Provost. But in terms of the money is there, it's in the plan, it's set by budget, and it's there to be spent as determined by colleagues based on the availability of both staff and weather conditions.
Thank you, Provost. Yeah, due to temperatures and conditions for laying bituminous material, we tend to try and do the works during the summer months. It also avoid any delays due to weather. It also means that if we're busy with winter maintenance, that doesn't impinge on resurfacing works. So we do tend to try and carry out all resurfacing works at the front end of the year, rather than struggling through the winter months where you might have delays due to weather. But having said that, our programme is usually, I think there was perhaps a difference last year. Forgive me because I wasn't here, but I believe we did have to curtail our programme. Was that last year or the year before, Joe, perhaps? We did curtail our surfacing programme because of a lack of the budget, because prices had increased beyond what we had expected them to. So we did have to curtail the surfacing early. But yeah, other than weather factors, we would normally programme all the way through, except perhaps December and January when we might take a break due to problems with the weather.
Well, thanks for that answer, Jane and Joe. It was at the last Governance and Scrutiny Committee meeting. It was there in black and white in the papers that the works had to be stopped, and so that's why I brought it up, because I just felt that. We obviously know, because as elected members, we get them all the time, all the emails coming in about the state of the roads. And I just felt if we're having to stop work for 2 or 3 months a year, there had to be a better way of doing things. But no, thanks for those answers.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Councillor Lennox.
Sorry, thank you, Provost. Nothing relating to the report. But I'd just like to take this opportunity to extend my personal thanks to the head of Ayrshire Roads Alliance for giving a couple of matters in Ward 7 our personal attention. So that's very much appreciated, and I thank her very much.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Provost. Yep, and it's just been mentioned, constituent complaints, potholes and road surfaces are one of the biggest issues we face. And Council awarded in the budget £400,000 extra for these jobs to be done. And obviously we can't do that. There's competing elements. So, I appreciate it's really, really difficult. And just following on from what Councillor Lennox said, there was an issue in Ward 4 in a particular area, and the head of Ayrshire Roads Alliance paid particular attention to that. So I'd like to pass on the thanks too. But, it's really, really difficult. It's really picking and choosing, and if residents get a group together to push for one surface, we need to tell them that's what, but something else might miss it. There's just not enough money to go around, and it's trying to let the public know that. And I'm sure it's coming forward from ARA. It'd be nice to get just a spreadsheet with the breakdown of where the 400,000 has been spent. Road X has said 20,000, Road Y has said 15,000, and then it's just a bit easier. But I know, Jane, you're going to be doing that, so thanks again.
Thank you, both Councillor Lennox, Councillor Boyd.
No, thank you. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Provost. If you can indulge me just a second. It would appear it's been a love-in today. Everybody's been so nice to each other and full of praise. You wouldn't have thought there was a general election a week away, but I think it's certainly a good sign of our democracy here in East Ayrshire, that we can challenge when need to. We can also be civil and courteous, and certainly as an election campaign rolls on, I hope that continues. So sorry it's not directly related, Provost, but I'm glad you've indulged me. Thank you.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, thanks for that. Folks, are we happy with the recommendations to note? Oh, yes, sure, David.
Obviously, it was just being opportunistic and taking Councillor Boyd's point and given we are in public session, just to draw members' attention to page 84 of the papers. Joe touched on this earlier in presenting annual accounts. In the section Our Performance, it states in there in 2022-23, there were examples of where the council's performance was among the top performing councils in Scotland, and members will see third from the bottom there that the percentage A-class roads that should be considered for maintenance treatment in East Ayrshire puts East Ayrshire third in the 32 councils in Scotland. So in terms of the overall approach to the maintenance of the roads, I would tend to suggest for those that like an evidence-based approach that we are generally getting it right. Councillor Richardson's point was quite simply, and as Jane's covered, on a one-off basis. It's not part of our strategic planning for the roads maintenance as opposed to the temporary fixing. We don't plan to have it in spits and starts other than a couple of winter months you heard about, but there was an issue just in terms of managing last year's budget, in terms of the levels of spend getting there before they got to where they wanted to be in the programme, but that'll be managed through in future years. But just taking Councillor Boyd's point about getting the message across to all constituents, then at the moment the council's performance can be seen there for public consideration, and members would want to be aware of that as well. So that was all promised.
No, thanks, David. Yeah, absolutely. I know that all councillors support the support that we give to ARA, and hopefully that can be communicated to members of the public out there. Folks, the recommendations, page 338 of your papers. Happy to note. Thanks very much for that. And before we finish, folks, can I just give a shout out to Councillor Maitland, who is looking for sponsorship. Don't run away. And this is a link to a GoFund page for all of the champions that are involved in endometriosis champions. East Ayrshire Council is the only council, we believe, in Scotland that's endo-friendly. So Claire's going to take the 10,000 steps challenge. And if anybody would like to get involved or sponsor Claire, she would be absolutely delighted for that. Okay, folks, now get into this, the election next week, as Barry said. And after that, I hope everyone stays safe. I hope you have a peaceful time. And I hope the weather gets better. And I hope Scotland gets better as well. In football terms, Georgia can show us the way. So have a great time, folks. I hope everybody's safe and look after everybody and all your families. Thank you.